Actually, in the previous class we have discussed about acids, different types of acids and their uses. Now in this class we are going to discuss about the properties of acids. So just I am going to revise quickly. Already we have discussed in the previous class. So acids are sour to taste. Already you know acids are sour to taste, right? Already you know this point. Acids are sour to taste, right? Now they turn blue litmus to red. What are the key points? They turn blue litmus to red. Acids turn blue litmus to red. Acids are sour to taste, blue litmus to red. They can turn blue litmus paper into red color. And acid solutions conduct electricity. Already you know acid solutions conduct electricity. Acid solutions conduct electricity. So acids are sour to taste, they turn blue litmus to red. Acid solutions conduct electricity. You already know acids reacts with active metals to liberate hydrogen gas. So already what are active metals, students? Metals which can displace hydrogen from dilute acids. Those metals which can displace hydrogen from dilute acids, we call them as active metals. For example, sodium reacts with HCl. Sodium solid reacts with HCl liquid. You are going to get sodium chloride solution with the evolution of hydrogen gas, right? With the evolution of hydrogen gas. So acids react with active metals to liberate hydrogen gas. For example, magnesium metal, if you treat with sulfuric acid, what you are going to get? Magnesium sulfate plus hydrogen gas. So magnesium reacts with sulfuric acid to form magnesium sulfate with the evolution of hydrogen gas. So here what are the examples of active metals? Zinc, iron, calcium, magnesium, all these are examples of active metals. So all these are properties of acids. Acids are sour to taste, they turn blue litmus paper into red. Acidic solutions conduct electricity because acids act as electrolyte. Aqueous solutions of any acid, they ionize, they conduct electricity. So acids displace hydrogen. Whenever any active metal is treated with acid, hydrogen gas is liberated. So metals which can displace hydrogen from dilute acids, we call them as active metals. So what are active metals, students? Metals which can displace hydrogen from acid, we call them as active metals. Here example, sodium, magnesium, zinc, iron, calcium, magnesium. So in all the cases, if any acid is treated with active metal, compulsory hydrogen gas is observed. Already you know, suppose if you take zinc metal, zinc reacts with dilute sulfuric acid. Zinc metal reacts with dilute sulfuric acid. Here what is liberated? Zinc sulfate with the evolution of hydrogen gas. So what is the test for hydrogen gas? Already you know, generally how can you test the hydrogen gas? So in that experiment, generally you have to take the test tube, add in a test tube, you take zinc pieces, add concentrated sulfuric acid or dilute sulfuric acid you can add here. So immediately which gas is observed? Hydrogen gas is released. And how to test? We have to pass this hydrogen gas through soap solution. Immediately soap bubbles appear out and hydrogen gas burns with pop sound. That is a test for hydrogen gas. Already you know, we have discussed this experiment. So test for hydrogen gas. So whenever you have to take a test tube, add zinc pieces, dilute sulfuric acid, slight warming, hydrogen gas is liberated. That liberated hydrogen gas is passed through a delivery tube and that gas is passed through a soap solution. So immediately soap bubbles filled with hydrogen gas. Those bubbles contain hydrogen gas. So immediately you can see pop sound. Hydrogen gas burns with pop sound. If you try to hit that bubble, you are going to observe a pop sound that indicates the presence of hydrogen gas. So zinc metal, in the same manner, zinc metal interacts with dilute HCl. Suppose 2 moles of dilute HCl, what you are going to get? ZnCl2 plus hydrogen gas is liberated here. So this is a property of acid. And already next important property. So one more point here you have to remember, student, curd and other sour stuffs, they should not be kept in vessels made up of certain metals like copper and brass. So curd and sour foodstuffs should not be stored in should not be stored in. You should not those curd and sour materials should not be stored in vessels made up of copper and brass. Vessels made up of copper and brass. So that is the important point. Why? Because immediately acid present in them react with metals to form a poisonous compound, and that may cause food poisoning and it may damage our health. So curd and other sour foodstuffs should not be stored in vessels made up of copper and brass, because what happens, it leads to the formation of a toxic compounds, and these toxic compounds will definitely damage our health. So we have to be very careful here. That's why curd and sour foodstuff should not be stored in vessels made up of copper and brass. That point is important. Next, already you know one more point. Metal oxide reacts with acid. Metal oxide reacts with acid to liberate salt and water. This point also important. See, already you know metal oxides are basic in nature. They act as bases. Metal oxides are basic in nature, so they act as bases. So metal oxide plus acid gives rise to salt and water. So here, for example, if you take zinc oxide reacts with HCl. So what you are going to get? ZnCl2 plus H2O. So here zinc oxide, it acts as a base, so it reacts with acid to form salt and water. So this is an example of neutralization reaction, students. What is meant by neutralization reaction? What is meant by neutralization reaction? So here neutralization reaction means acid reacts with base to form salt and water. What is that? Acid plus base gives rise to salt plus water. This is called neutralization reaction. Acid plus base gives rise to salt plus water. So here in this, all metal oxides acts as bases. So that's why zinc oxide reacts with HCl gas. Zinc oxide reacts with HCl gas. What you are going to get? ZnCl2 plus water. So here this zinc oxide acts as a base. Okay, students, in the same manner we can take some more examples. Magnesium oxide reacts with sulfuric acid. Here you are going to get MgSO4 plus hydrogen, MgSO4 plus H2O. So it acts as a base. So in the same manner, alumina, Al2O3 interacts with alumina. This is called alumina, Al2O3 interacts with sulfuric acid to form aluminium sulfate. Aluminium sulfate plus water. In the same manner, cupric oxide, that is a black color substance. CuO is a black color substance. It interacts with HCl. So here CuO is a black color compound. If you take a test tube, take some few drops of HCl, black color cupric oxide powder also you can take. Finally, if you heat this one, you are going to get CuCl2. So CuCl2 means that is bluish green color. That is blue green color, and that black color solution turns into black color compound turns into bluish green color. That is cupric chloride. What we call this compound? Cupric chloride. We call this compound as cupric chloride. So from all these examples, what is the main fundamental? All these examples come under the category of neutralization reactions. So in this neutralization, what is a neutralization reaction? Acid reacts with base to form salt and water. Here in this example, metal oxides react with acids to liberate salt plus water. Zinc oxide reacts with HCl to form ZnCl2. Magnesium oxide reacts with sulfuric acid to form magnesium sulfate plus water. Alumina, Al2O3 reacts with sulfuric acid to form aluminium sulfate plus water. Cupric oxide, it's a black color compound. You can test this one experimentally in NCERT textbook. You can see here. You can see the diagram also. Black color cupric oxide turns into bluish green color. So all these examples are examples of neutralization reactions. And one more example for neutralization reaction here is not only metal oxides, metal hydroxides you take. Metal hydroxides react plus acid gives rise to salt plus water. This is also one of the examples for neutralization reaction. Metal hydroxide plus acid gives rise to salt plus water. So here, for example, I am taking magnesium hydroxide. So this is called milk of magnesia. What is the name for this magnesium hydroxide? This is called milk of magnesia. What we call this one? This is called milk of magnesia. So it acts as an antacid. It is used to relieve acidicity in the stomach. So to relieve acidic nature in stomach, you can use milk of magnesia. So milk of magnesia acts as a base. So it interacts with HCl to form MgCl2 plus water. MgCl2 plus water. So this is also an example of neutralization reaction, students. And now one more example also you can take, metal carbonate plus acid. So when you treat metal carbonate with acid, what you are going to get? Salt plus water plus carbon dioxide. Salt plus water plus carbon dioxide. It is also one of the examples here for neutralization reaction here, because metal carbonate, it acts as a base. All metal carbonates here, they act as base. Bases reacts with acids to form salt and water. The thing what you have to remember is, whenever the metal carbonate is heated with acid, which gas is liberated? Carbon dioxide gas is liberated. That point is important. Metal carbonate reacts with acid to liberate carbon dioxide. So for example, well-known example, calcium carbonate reacts with HCl. Calcium carbonate reacts with HCl to give calcium chloride plus H2O plus CO2. Calcium chloride plus H2O plus CO2. So here carbon dioxide gas is evolved here. So whenever any metal carbonate is heated with acid, which gas is liberated? Carbon dioxide gas is liberated. So sodium carbonate, one more example I am taking, students. Sodium carbonate reacts with HCl. So here sodium carbonate, it acts as a base. So here calcium carbonate, it acts as a base. So sodium carbonate reacts with HCl to give what you are going to get? Sodium chloride plus carbon dioxide plus water. Sodium chloride plus carbon dioxide plus water. So in this example also carbon dioxide gas is evolved. So what point you have to remember, students? Whenever the metal carbonates are heated with acids, you are going to, which gas is liberated? Carbon dioxide gas is liberated. Which gas is liberated, students? Carbon dioxide gas is liberated. In the same manner, here you can take metal, one more example for neutralization reaction, metal bicarbonate. You take metal bicarbonates plus acid. Metal bicarbonate plus acid gives rise to salt plus carbon dioxide plus water. Same phenomena. Instead of metal carbonate, I am taking metal bicarbonate. This metal bicarbonate acts as base. So this is also an example of neutralization reaction. Okay. So for example, we will take one example, metal bicarbonate, sodium bicarbonate you take and heat it with, this is called sodium bicarbonate. So sodium bicarbonate is heated with acid. What you are going to get? Sodium chloride plus H2O plus CO2. Sodium chloride plus H2O plus CO2. So this sodium bicarbonate acts as base. So here which gas is evolved, students? Carbon dioxide gas is evolved. So metal bicarbonate reacts with acid to form salt plus carbon dioxide plus water. So simply, students, what is a neutralization reaction? Acid reacts with base to form salt and water. So all these are examples. Metal oxide reacts with acid to form salt and water. Metal hydroxide reacts with acid to form salt and water. Metal carbonate reacts with acid to liberate salt plus water plus carbon dioxide. Metal bicarbonate reacts with acid to liberate carbon dioxide. All these come under the category of neutralization reaction. And how can you test the presence of carbon dioxide gas? How can you test the presence of carbon dioxide gas? See this diagram. See this diagram, students. This is from your NCERT textbook. And so see this figure, students. Now in laboratory, how can you test the presence of carbon dioxide gas? Take a test tube. You can see the diagram. In this diagram, you can see a retard stand. A test tube, boiling tube is fixed to the retard stand, and what is kept there? A rubber cork is fixed. Now what we have taken in the test tube? Dilute acid, HCl and sodium carbonate. Sodium carbonate and HCl. Sodium carbonate and HCl. See this one? Sodium carbonate and dilute HCl are taken in the test tube. And if you heat this one, what happens if you heat sodium carbonate with HCl, sodium chloride plus carbon dioxide? So see, students, here, so whenever the carbon dioxide, whatever the gas, what is the gas liberated during that reaction? What is that reaction? Sodium carbonate plus HCl gives rise to sodium. See these two equations, students. You can sodium carbonate plus HCl, NaCl plus water plus carbon dioxide. Sodium bicarbonate plus HCl, sodium chloride water plus carbon dioxide. In both the equations, what is the byproduct gas? Carbon dioxide. So in this diagram, if you heat sodium carbonate with HCl, carbon dioxide gas is evolved, and that gas passes through this funnel, and finally whatever the gas that is passed, that pass through, that turns. See what we have taken in this test tube? Calcium hydroxide solution. What is calcium hydroxide solution? It acts as a lime. That is, a lime water is nothing but calcium hydroxide solution. So whenever the carbon dioxide is passed through calcium hydroxide solution, it turns lime water milky. It turns lime water milky. I think you understood, students. If you take sodium carbonate or sodium bicarbonate, finally which gas is evolved? Carbon dioxide gas is evolved, and that carbon dioxide gas is passed through the test tube containing lime water. So carbon dioxide gas turns lime water milky. From this you can say carbon dioxide, you can detect the presence of carbon dioxide gas through this experiment. At the same time, here see students, see what is this CaOH twice? This is called lime water. Lime water, this carbon dioxide, this is a mathematical representation. Carbon dioxide gas is passed through calcium hydroxide. Finally you are going to get a white color precipitate, that is calcium carbonate. See, there are many names for this calcium carbonate. You can call it as limestone, chalk, marble, like that you can call many names for this calcium carbonate. So white color precipitate, this is a soluble, this is insoluble precipitate. What is this? This is an insoluble precipitate. So take a test tube containing lime water, pass carbon dioxide gas, you are going to observe a insoluble white precipitate of calcium carbonate. Next, see, through the same test tube, what I am doing is I am passing excess carbon dioxide. Excess carbon dioxide, if I pass through some more amount of carbon dioxide to that white color calcium carbonate solution, so the calcium carbonate turns into calcium bicarbonate. This is the formula for calcium bicarbonate. So calcium, what is the difference between calcium carbonate and calcium bicarbonate? Calcium carbonate is a white color insoluble complex. Calcium carbonate is a white color insoluble complex. So when you pass excess water and carbon dioxide through that white color precipitate, that white color precipitate completely dissolves in water. So in the presence of excess carbon dioxide, I am going to get a soluble, what is that? A soluble calcium bicarbonate. I am going to observe a clear solution, colorless solution I am going to observe. That colorless solution is mainly due to the formation of calcium bicarbonate. Calcium bicarbonate completely dissolves in water. Calcium carbonate completely dissolves in water. So I think next one. So I think you understood, students. Here this is an experiment which is used to reveal this. So metal bicarbonates reacts with its metal carbonates or metal bicarbonates interacts with this acid to form salt, carbon dioxide and water. So now so calcium carbonate is insoluble in water, calcium bicarbonate is a water soluble one. So here the thing is, sodium bicarbonate is also, it is a base, it is also used to treat indigestion, and for what purpose we use? In order to decrease the acidic nature of present in stomach. So if it is over acidic, if overeating causes more acidity in the stomach, in order to relieve that, if you want to free from acidity, we have to take sodium bicarbonate, right? So generally this sodium bicarbonate reacts with excess HCl. You know, in our stomach excess HCl is released. This sodium bicarbonate neutralizes that HCl. So finally neutralization reaction takes place in our stomach. So even eggshells, you know, eggshells mainly contains calcium carbonate. Remember that. Marble, limestone, chalk and even eggshells are made up of calcium carbonate. So carbon dioxide gas doesn't support combustion. Remember that point. Carbon dioxide gas is mainly used in fire extinguishers. So you know, if you want to put off the fire, we use carbon dioxide gas. So carbon dioxide gas turns lime water milky. And the other point what you have to remember, carbon dioxide is used in fire extinguishers. So now students, now already how neutralization reaction takes place. You already know what is meant by neutralization reaction. Now how this neutralization reaction takes place. So you already, suppose I am taking one equation, sodium hydroxide reacts with HCl to form NaCl plus water. Sodium hydroxide is a base, HCl is a acid. Okay, right? This is an example of neutralization reaction. So here what you have to do is, in this experiment, generally you take a test tube. So in the test tube you fill the test tube with suppose 2 ml NaOH. Fill the test tube with 2 ml NaOH, that is a base, and add few drops of, you just add few drops of indicator. What is that indicator? Phenolphthalein indicator. Very important. So when you add phenolphthalein indicator to 2 ml of NaOH, So what is the color of the solution? Immediately the color of the solution turns pink color. So when you add phenolphthalein indicator, to NaOH, that means take 2 ml of NaOH, add phenolphthalein indicator, what color you are going to resulting color? Pink color. So phenolphthalein gives pink color with phenolphthalein indicator. This is important for objective. Phenolphthalein indicator gives pink color with basic solution. If it is a basic solution, phenolphthalein indicator always give pink color. Okay. So now finally you are having pink color solution. This is pink color solution, right? So to this pink color solution, finally you have got this pink color solution, right? So to this pink color solution you add dilute HCl by using dropper. Add dilute HCl dropwise you add the dilute HCl. After that, what you are going to observe? After some time, what you are going to observe? Pink color solution turns colorless. So that means first I have taken indicator is a substance which indicates the complete neutralization of the reaction. Indicator is a substance which indicate the end point of the reaction. That means end point means that will indicate the end of the reaction. That means the neutralization reaction has completed. So first I have taken a base, I have added few drops of indicator, the solution turns pink color. After that, if I add dilute HCl dropwise to that, at certain point, at certain stage, the test tube becomes colorless. Pink color solution becomes colorless. So conversion of pink color to colorless indicates that reaction has come to an end. This is the experimental evidence for neutralization reaction. So at what point the pink color suddenly changes to pink color suddenly changes to colorless. So that point we call it as neutralization point or end point. So by this activity we can say acids react with bases to form salt and water, right? This is an experimental evidence for neutralization reaction. So which indicator, what point you have to remember is phenolphthalein. In case of acidic solutions, phenolphthalein is colorless. So conclusion point, phenolphthalein is colorless. Phenolphthalein gives colorless. Phenolphthalein is colorless to acidic solutions. If the solution is acidic, if you add phenolphthalein to the acidic solution, it remains colorless. If you add phenolphthalein to basic solution, to any base, so what color you will get? Pink. So phenolphthalein gives pink color with basic solution. Phenolphthalein is colorless with, so phenolphthalein indicator remains colorless in acidic medium, but the same phenolphthalein indicator gives pink color with basic solution. That is the experiment. That is the importance of phenolphthalein indicator. I think you understood. And one more point, students, acids have corrosive nature. So you already know corrosion means here. See, actually acid you should not store acid. Don't store acids in metal container. What happens if you store any acid in metal container? That point you have to remember. Acids are never stored in metal containers because they gradually corrode and eat up the metal container. So these acids will eat the metal container. So metals get corroded. Metal containers get corroded in the presence of acids. So then where we have to store the acids? Store acids in vessels made of glass and ceramics. So because they are not attacked by acids, these glass and ceramics are not attacked by acids. So acids are corrosive in nature. So don't store acids in metal containers which are made of metal containers, because the acids will eat away that metal container. Metals get corroded. So better store acids in vessels which are made up of glass and ceramics, because acid can't attack glass as well as ceramic. So that is also important point what you have to remember. And now we are discussing about an experiment to show that all the compound, what we are going to prove it now, we are going to discuss about an experiment which tells us that one point. What is that? Compounds containing hydrogen, that is all the compounds containing hydrogen are not acids. Remember that point. If hydrogen is there, we see already I have defined the definition of acid. The substance which releases H plus ions in solution, we call it as acid. So if any compound contains hydrogen, we can't consider it as an acid. The one which releases H plus ions in the solution, that is considered as an acid. Suppose if the compound don't ionize, if the compound don't release H plus ions in the solution, we should not consider it as an acid. So this experiment will show all the compounds containing hydrogen are not acids. So for this purpose, what we have to do is, we have to do the experiment here. We have to take the aqueous. Suppose I have taken a beaker containing HCl, other beaker containing sulfuric acid, and the beaker containing C6H12O6. That is, what is C6H12O6, students? Glucose. And the other beaker containing alcohol. So 4 I have taken: HCl, H2SO4, glucose and alcohol. Now here what we have to do is, see this figure, students. Suppose what I have taken in this acidic solution in water conducts electricity. Now I have taken a beaker containing HCl. In the same manner, other beaker containing sulfuric acid, beaker C containing glucose, beaker D containing alcohol. So this is the experimental setup. This is a beaker. Now here 2 nails are inserted in that rubber cork. And these 2 nails are connected to the external circuit battery, 6 volts battery. So ends of the nails are connected to the external circuit battery. Now a bulb is placed here. Now if you pass electricity through this, what happens? Ionization takes place. Suppose if HCl ionizes to give, see here, students, see here, HCl ionizes to give, what you will get? H plus aqueous plus Cl minus aqueous. That means it releases H plus ions. So here, see here, HCl, aqueous solution of dilute HCl will undergo ionization. It splits into H plus and Cl minus ions. So H plus ions are released in here. So due to ionization takes place here. So immediately, because acidic solution, acid acts as an electrolyte, it acts as an electrolyte. Electrolytes are good conductors of heat and electricity. So when you take aqueous HCl solution, ionization takes place and finally bulb will glow. So bulb glows means, what does it indicate? Current, electricity is passed in the circuit due to ionization of HCl. HCl is a good electrolyte, right? Now suppose in the same beaker, instead of taking HCl, if I take sulfuric acid, sulfuric acid also ionizes into 2H plus SO4 minus. So it also will conduct electricity. Now the same experiment is repeated with glucose. So here no ionization, because bulb, see in beaker A, beaker B, you can see the glowing of bulb. But in beaker C and beaker D, bulb is not glown. What does it indicate? I didn't observe any glow in the bulb. So glucose, C6H12O6, even though it contains hydrogen, it is a non-electrolyte. It is not an electrolyte. No ionization takes place. Here ionization has not taken place. In the same manner, alcohol also, no ionization. So H plus ions are not released. Ions are not produced. H plus ions are not released in beaker C and beaker D. That's why the bulb present in beaker C and beaker D didn't glow, right? The bulb present in beaker A and beaker B has glown, but bulb present in beaker C and beaker D, there is no glow in the bulb is observed. So this is an experiment. So from this experiment we can say one point here. What points we can suggest? The aqueous solution of an acid conducts electricity due to the presence of charged particles. So how it conducts electricity? For example, HCl plus water. See, simply here you are going to get H3O plus Cl minus. So this is called hydronium ion. What we call this ion? Hydronium ion. So HCl plus H2O gives rise to H3O plus Cl minus. So the aqueous solutions of HCl, sulfuric acid, they conducted electricity due to release of hydronium ions, H plus ions. Hydronium ion can be represented in this manner, H plus aqueous. It can also be represented like H3O plus. So in the same manner, the aqueous solution of glucose and alcohol didn't show any acidic character. They are not considered as acid because hydrogen ionization doesn't take place here. So that's why all acids that contain hydrogen, generally all hydrogen containing compounds are not considered as acids. Where the ionization takes place, where the release of H plus ion takes place, there only electricity conduction takes place. So this is very, very important experiment to reveal that aqueous solutions of acids conduct electricity. Aqueous solutions of acids conduct electricity. And one more point, students, important for NCERT board. Rainwater conducts electricity. That is a statement. How rainwater conducts electricity? Generally, whenever the rain taken, suppose if the rain falling from the sky, so in between here when it reaches the earth, so there are many acidic oxides present in the atmosphere. Non-metallic oxides such as carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, nitrogen dioxide present in the atmosphere. This rainwater interacts with these non-metal oxides. So finally, what the solution turns into acidic. Right? Rainwater interacts with carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, nitrogen dioxide oxides present in the atmosphere, and it turns into acidic. Right? So here what happens? For example, equations I can show. Rainwater interacts with carbon dioxide. What you are going to get? H2CO3, carbonic acid. This carbonic acid is a weak acid. It dissociates into 2H plus CO3 2 minus. So what ions are released? H plus ions. In the same manner, H2O plus SO2 gives rise to H2SO3. So it also splits into 2H plus SO3 2 minus. So here also H plus ions are released. So in the same manner, you can take nitrogen dioxide. So here HNO3 is formed, that it undergo ionization to give H plus NO3 minus. So here in all the three, in these cases H plus ions are released. Wherever H plus ions are released, so compulsory. So that rainwater is a good conductor of electricity. From this experiment we can say rainwater is a good conductor of electricity. It conducts electricity. Why? Because of these ions. H plus ions are released here. In the same manner, one more important, that is distilled water. Distilled water doesn't conduct electricity. So it won't conduct electricity. It is a bad conductor of electricity, distilled water, because that water doesn't contain any ions in it. All the ions are removed from that water. So distilled water is free from individual ions. So because it doesn't contain any ionic compound dissolved in it, so nothing is there. So that is distilled water. It doesn't contain any ions in it. So that's why it is a poor conductor of, it is a bad conductor of electricity. So conclusion point, acids don't show acidic behavior in the absence of water. Very, very important. Acids don't show, very, very important, acidic behavior. Acids don't show acidic behavior in the absence of water. Compulsory moisture must be there. So if water is there only, there is a chance of ionization. Unless water is not there, acids will not undergo ionization easily. Acids don't show acidic behavior in the absence of water. So the acidic behavior of all acids is due to the presence of H plus aqueous ions in it. The acidic behavior of all acids is mainly due to the presence of H plus aqueous ions in it. Okay. So in the presence of water, H plus ions are produced. H plus aqueous ions are produced. In the absence of water, H plus aqueous ions are not produced. Hence, it will not show acidic behavior. Best example, dry HCl. Dry HCl doesn't conduct electricity. Dry HCl doesn't conduct electricity. That is a point. Compulsory important point. At the same time, moist HCl gas. Moisture means some water content will be there. Dry HCl doesn't conduct electricity. Why? Due to the absence of free H plus ions. Due to the absence of free H plus ions. Moist HCl gas conducts electricity. What is the reason? Presence of free H plus ions. So that is the reason. Okay. Dry HCl gas doesn't conduct electricity. How can you convey it through experiment? How can you convey it through experiment here? So what I will do is, I will take dry HCl gas in a test. So I will take a litmus paper. Okay, dry blue litmus paper. Otherwise you take HCl gas only. Dry blue litmus paper you take. So what you are going to observe? Pass dry HCl gas through dry blue litmus paper. No change in color, right? No change in color is observed. HCl gas is passed through dry blue litmus paper. So blue litmus paper didn't observe any change. No change in color. In the same manner, if you take HCl gas and pass through moist blue litmus paper. Pass through moist blue litmus paper. Finally, what you are going to get? Red color. There is a color change. Red color is observed. HCl gas, moist blue litmus paper, red color you are going to observe. That means change in color. That means HCl gas, when it is brought in contact with moist blue litmus paper, you are going to observe red color, right? If it is dry blue litmus paper, no change in color because of the absence of moisture. H plus ions are not released here. Here H plus ions are released in the second case. So this is a very, very important point. So this is about acid, students.